All right, I'm going to hand it over to you, Bobby.
Okay, you guys, so we're just starting Augie and Me, and the author of the book stressed that this is not a sequel. This is not the rest of Augie's life, because so many people that have listened and read her stories about Augie, they have imagined what Augie's life is going to be. So she did not want to impose her own thoughts on everybody else. So this book is about three people that were in Augie's life. And the first person that we're reading about is Julian. And if you remember, he was one of the people that Mr. Tushman invited to school so that when Augie came for the first time before everybody else was there, these three kids would show them around. And one was Julian, and one was Jack Will, and one was Charlotte. Mr. Tushman thanked them so much for coming and making Augie feel comfortable. When they met Augie for the first time, Julian was very scared. It triggered a memory that he had when he was about 5 years old. And we read about, he was watching SpongeBob, the cartoon, and it was Halloween time. And one of the ads for the cartoon, during the cartoon, popped up with a zombie face. And it shocked him so much, he started having nightmares. And he had so many terrible nightmares, his parents got really concerned. And it took him till he was about 10 years old to be able to resolve that, okay? But when he met Augie for the first time, Augie's disfigurement of his face, which is a condition that not just Augie, but many people can have, it triggered in Julian's mind that first nightmare. So we are reading about how Julian is dealing with it, all right? And we're picking up from right there. So we're going to start with class picture. So this is Julian who's going to be talking. I tried to describe what Augie looked like to my mom, but she didn't get it until the school pictures arrived in the mail. Up until then, she never really had seen him. She'd been away on a business trip during the Thanksgiving Sharing Festival, so she didn't see him then. On Egyptian Museum Day, Augie's face had been covered with mummy gauze, and there hadn't been any after-school concerts yet. So the first time Mom saw Augie and finally started understanding my nightmare situation was when she opened that large envelope with my class picture in it. It was actually kind of funny. I can tell you exactly how she reacted because I was watching her as she opened it. First, she excitedly split open the top of the envelope with a letter opener. Then she pulled out my individual portrait. She put her hand on her chest. Oh, Julian, you look so handsome, she said. I'm so glad you wore that tie. Grandmère sent you. I was eating some ice cream at the kitchen table and just smiled and nodded at her. And then I watched her take out the class picture. In lower school, every class would get its own picture taken with its own teacher. But in middle school, it's just one group picture of the entire fifth grade. So 60 kids standing in front of the entrance to the school, 15 kids in each row, 4 rows. I was in the back row in between Augie, Amos, and Henry. Mom was looking at the photo with a smile on her face. Oh, there you are, she said when she spotted me. She continued looking at the picture with a smile on her face. Oh my, oh, look how big Miles has gotten, said Mom. And is that Henry? Oh, he looks like he's getting a mustache. And who is? And she stopped talking. The smile on her face stayed frozen for a second or two. And then her face slowly transformed into a stare of shock. She put the photo down and stared blankly in front of her. And then she looked at the photo again. And then she looked at me. She wasn't smiling. This is a kid you've been talking about, she asked me. Her voice had completely changed from the way it sounded moments before. I told you, I answered. She looked at the picture again. This isn't just a cleft palate. No one said ever it was a cleft palate, I said to her. Mr. Tushman never said that. Oh, yes, he did. On the phone that time. No, Mom, I answered her. What he said was facial issues, and you just assumed he meant cleft palate, but he never actually said cleft palate. I could swear he said that boy had a cleft palate, she answered. But this is so much worse than that. And she really looked stunned. She couldn't stop staring at the photo. What does he have exactly? Is he developmentally delayed? He looks like he might be. I don't think so, I said, shrugging. Does he talk okay? Well, he kind of mumbles, I answered. He's hard to understand sometimes. Mom put the picture down on the table and sat down. She started tapping her fingers on the table. I'm trying to think of who his mother is, she said, shaking her head. There are so many new parents in the school, I can't think of who it might be. Is she blonde? No, she has dark hair, I answered. I see her at drop-off sometimes. Does she look like the son? Oh, no, not at all, I said. I sat down next to her and picked up the picture, squinting at it so my eyes couldn't see it too clearly. Augie was in the front row, all the way on the left. I told you, Mom. You wouldn't believe me, but I told you. It's not that I didn't believe you, she answered defensively. I'm just kind of surprised. I didn't realize it was this severe. Oh, I think I know who she is, his mom. Is she very pretty, kind of exotic, has dark wavy hair? What? I don't know. She's a mom. I think I know who she is, answered Mom, nodding to herself. I saw her on parents' night. Her husband's handsome too. I have no idea, I said, shaking my head. Oh, those poor people. And she put her hand over her heart. Now you get why I've been having nightmares again, I asked her. She ran her hands through her hair. But how are you still having those nightmares? She asked. Yes, not every night like I did for the first month of school. But yeah, I said, throwing the picture down on the tabletop. Why did he have to come to Breacher Prep anyway? I looked at my mom, who didn't know what to say. She started putting the picture back into the envelope. Don't even think of putting that in my school album, by the way, I said loudly. You should just burn it or something. Julian, she said. Then out of the blue, I started crying. Oh, my darling, said Mom, kind of surprised, and she hugged me. I can't help it, Mom. I hate that I have to see him every day. That night, I had the same nightmare I've been having since the start of school. I'm walking down the main hallway, and all the kids are in front of their lockers staring at me, whispering about me as I walk past them. I kept walking up the stairwell till I got to the bathroom, and then I looked in the mirror. When I see myself, though, it's not me I'm seeing, it's Augie. And then I scream. Photoshop. The next morning, I'll overhear Mom and Dad talking as they're getting ready for work. I'm getting dressed for school. They should have done more to prepare the kids, Mom said to Dad. The school should have sent home a letter or something. I don't know. Come on, answered Dad. Saying what? What can they possibly say? There's a homely kid in your class? Come on. It's much more than that. Let's not make too big a deal about it, Melissa. You haven't seen him, Jewel, said Mom. It's quite severe. Parents should have been told. I should have been told, especially with Julian's anxiety issues. Anxiety issues, I yelled from my room. I ran into their bedroom. You think I have anxiety issues? No, Julian, said Dad. No one's saying that. Mom just said that, I answered, pointing at Mom. I just heard her say anxiety issues. What? So you guys think I have mental problems? No, they both said. Just because I get nightmares? No, they yelled. It's not my fault he goes to my school, I cried. It's not my fault his face freaks me out. Of course it's not, darling, said Mom. No one is saying that. All I meant is that because of your history of nightmares, the school should have alerted me. Then at least I would have known better about the nightmares you're having. I would have known what triggered them. I sat down on the edge of their bed. Dad had the class pictures in his hands and had obviously just been looking at it. I hope you're planning on burning that, I said, and I wasn't joking. No, darling, said Mom, sitting on the other side of me. We don't need to burn anything. Look what I've done. She picked up a different photo from the nightstand and handed it to me to look at. At first, I thought it was just another copy of the class picture because it was exactly the same size as the class picture Dad had in his hands, and everything in it was exactly the same. I started to look away in disgust, but Mom pointed to a place on the photo, the place where Augie used to be. He was nowhere in the photo. I couldn't believe it. There was no trace of him. I looked up at Mom, who was beaming. The magic of Photoshop, she said happily, clapping her hands. Now you can look at this picture and not have to have your memory of fifth grade tarnished. Oh, that is so cool. How did you do that? Well, I've gotten pretty good at Photoshop, she answered. Remember last year how I made all those skies blue in the Hawaii pictures? You never would have known it rained every day, answered Dad, shaking his head. Laugh if you want, said Mom. But now when I look at those pictures, I don't have to be mindful of the bad weather that almost ruined our trip. I can remember it for the beautiful vacation it was, which is exactly how I want you to remember your fifth grade year at Preacher Prep. Okay, Julian? All right, good memories, not ugly ones. Thanks, Mom, I said, hugging her tightly. I didn't say it, of course, but even though she changed the skies to light blue on the photos, all I ever really remembered about our Hawaiian trip was how cold and wet it was when we were there, despite the magic of Photoshop. Mean. Look, I didn't start out being mean. I mean, I'm not a mean kid. Sure, sometimes I make jokes, but they're not mean jokes. They're just teasing jokes. People have to lighten up a little. Okay, maybe sometimes my jokes are a little mean, but I only make those jokes behind someone's back. I never say stuff to anyone's face that will actually hurt someone. I'm not a bully like that. And I'm not a hater, dudes. Attention, people, stop being so sensitive. Some people totally got the whole Photoshop thing, and some didn't. Henry and Miles thought it was so cool and wanted my mom to email their moms a photo. Amos thought it was weird. Charlotte completely disapproved. I don't know what Jack thought because he'd gone over to the dark side by now. It's like he totally abandoned his peeps this year and only hangs out with Augie now, which bugged me because that meant I couldn't hang out with him anymore. No way was I going to catch the plague from that freak. That was the name of the game I invented, the plague. It was simple. If you touched Augie and you didn't wash off the contamination, you died. Everyone in the whole grade played, except Jack and Summer. So here's the strange thing. I've known Summer since we were in third grade, and I never really paid any attention to her. But this year, Henry started liking Savannah, and they were like going out. Now, by going out, I don't mean like high school stuff, which would be kind of gross, barf, disgusting. All it means is when you're going out is that you hang out together and meet each other at the lockers and sometimes go to the ice cream shop on Amsterdam Avenue after school. So first Henry started going out with Savannah, and then Miles started going out with Zammer. And I was like, yo, what about me? And then Amos said, I'm going to ask Summer out. And I was like, no way, I'm asking her out. So that's when I started kind of liking Summer. But it's totally bit that Summer, like Jack, was on Team Augie. And then I couldn't hang out with her at all. I couldn't even say what's up to her because the freak might think I was talking to him or something. So I told Henry to have Savannah invite Summer to the Halloween party at her house. I figured I could hang out with her and maybe even ask her to go out with me. That didn't work though, because she ended up leaving the party early. And ever since then, she's been spending all of her time with the freak. Okay. I know it's not nice to call him the freak, but like I said before, people have to start being just a little less sensitive here. It's only a joke, everyone. Don't take me so seriously. I'm not being mean. I'm just being funny. That's all I was doing, being totally funny the day that Jack Will punched me. I'd been totally joking, fooling around, and I didn't see it coming. The way I remember it, we were just goofing together. Then all of a sudden, he whacks me in the mouth for no reason. Boom. And I was like, ow, you crazy jerk face. You punched me. You actually punched me. And the next thing I know, I'm in Nurse Molly's office, holding one of my teeth in my hand. And Mr. Tushman is there. And I hear him on the phone with my mom saying they're taking me to the hospital. I could hear my mom screaming on the other end of the line. Then Miss Rubin, the dean, is leading me to the back of an ambulance, and when they're on the way to the hospital. Crazy stuff. When we were riding in the ambulance, Miss Rubin asked me if I knew why Jack hit me. I was like, duh, because he's totally insane. Not that I could talk much because my lips were swollen and there was blood all over my mouth. Miss Rubin stayed with me at the hospital until Mom showed up. Mom was more than a little hysterical, as you can imagine. She was crying kind of dramatically every time she saw my face. It was, I have to admit, a little embarrassing. And then Dad showed up. Who did this? Was the first thing he said, shouting at Miss Rubin. Jack Will, answered Miss Rubin calmly. He's with Mr. Tushman now. Jack Will, cried Mom in shock. We know the Wills. How could that happen? There will be a thorough investigation, answered Miss Rubin. Right now, what's most important is that Julian's going to be fine. Fine, yelled Mom. Look at his face. Do you think that's fine? I don't think that's fine. This is outrageous. What kind of school is this? I thought kids didn't punch each other at schools like Preacher Prep. I thought that's why we pay $40,000 a year, so our kids don't get hurt. Miss Albans and Miss Rubens, I know you're upset. I'm assuming the kid will get expelled, right? Said Dad. Dad, I yelled. We will definitely deal with this matter in the appropriate way, I promise, answered Miss Rubens, trying to keep her voice calm. And now, if you don't mind, I think I'll leave you guys alone for a bit. The doctor will be back and you can check in with him. But he said that nothing was broken. Julian was fine. He lost a lower first molar, but that was on its way out anyway. He's going to give him some pain medication and you should keep icing it. Let's talk more in the morning. It was only then I realized that poor Miss Rubens' blouse and skirt were completely covered in my blood. Boy, mouths do bleed a lot. Later that night, when I could finally talk again without it hurting, Mom and Dad wanted to know every detail of what had happened, starting with what Jack and I had been talking about right before he hit me. What upset because he had paired up with that deformed kid, I answered. I told him he could switch partners if he wanted to, and then he punched me. Mom shook her head. That was it for her. She was literally madder than I'd ever seen her before. And I've seen my mom pretty mad before, believe me. This is what happens, Jill, she said to Dad, crossing her arms and nodding quickly. This is what happens when you make little kids deal with issues they're not supposed to deal with. They're just too young to be exposed to this kind of stuff. That Tushman is an idiot. And she said a whole bunch of other things too. But those are kind of too inappropriate, if you know what I mean, for me to repeat. But Dad, I don't want Jack expelled from school, I said later on in the night. I still wasn't talking very well. He was putting more ice on my mouth because the painkiller they'd given me at the hospital was wearing off. That's not up to us, he answered, but I wouldn't trouble myself about it if I were you. Whatever happens, Jack will get what he deserves for this. I have to admit, I started feeling kind of bad for Jack. I mean, sure, he was a total dipstick for punching me, and I wanted him to get in trouble, but I really didn't want him to get kicked out of school or anything. But Mom, I could tell, was on one of her missions now, as Dad would say. She gets like that sometimes when she gets so outraged about something that there's just no stopping her. She was like that a few years ago when a kid got hit by a car a couple of blocks away from Breacher Prep. And she had like 1 million people sign a petition to have a traffic light installed. That was a super mom moment. She was also like that last month when our favorite restaurant changed its menu and they no longer made my favorite dish the way I liked it. That was another super mom moment because after she talked to the new owner, they agreed to special order the dish just for me. But Mom also gets like that for not so nice stuff, like when a waiter messes up a food order. That's not so super mom moment because, well, you know, it can get kind of weird when your mom starts talking to a waiter like he's 5 years old. Awkward. Also, like Dad says, you don't want to get a waiter mad at you. They have your food in their hands, duh. So I wasn't totally clear on how I felt when I realized my mom was declaring war on Mr. Tushman, Augie Pullman, and all of Breacher Prep. Was it going to be a super mom moment or not so super mom moment? Like, would it end up with Augie going to a different school? Yay! Or with Mr. Tushman blowing his nose in my cafeteria food? Ugh. I think, okay, we're going to read one more short chapter. This is called Party, and then we're going to stop. It took about 2 weeks for the swelling to go completely down. Because of that, we ended up not going to Paris over winter break. Mom didn't want our relatives to see me looking like I'd been in a prize fight. She also wouldn't take any pictures of me over the holidays because she said she didn't want to remember me looking like that. For our annual Christmas card, we used one of the rejects from last year's photo shoot. Even though I wasn't having a lot of nightmares anymore, the fact that I started having nightmares again really worried Mom. I could tell she was totally stressed out about it. Then the day before our Christmas party, she found out from one of the other moms that Augie had not been through the same kind of admission screening that the rest of us had been. See, every kid who applies to Breacher Prep is supposed to be interviewed and take a test at the school, but some kind of exemption had been made for Augie. He didn't come to the school for the interview, and he got to take the admission test at home. Mom thought that was really unfair. This kid should not have gotten into our school, I heard her telling a group of other moms. Breacher Prep is not just set up to handle situations like this. We're not an exclusion school. We don't have the psychologists needed to deal with how it affects the other kids. Poor Julian had nightmares for a whole month. Mom, I hate you telling people about my nightmares. Well, Henry was upset as well, Henry's mother said, and the other moms nodded. They didn't even prepare us beforehand, Mom went on. That's what gets me the most. They're not going to provide additional psychological support. Then at least they can warn the parents ahead of time. Absolutely, said Miles' mom, and the other moms nodded. Obviously, Jack Will could have been using some therapy, Mom said, rolling her eyes. Well, I was surprised that they didn't expel him, said Henry's mom. Oh, they would have, answered Mom, but we asked them not to. We've known the Will family since kindergarten. They're good people. We don't blame Jack, really. I think he just cracked under the pressure of having to be this kid's caregiver. That's what happens when you put little kids into these kinds of situations. Honestly, don't think what Tushman was thinking. I'm sorry, I just have to step in here, said another mom. I think it was Charlotte's mom because she had the same bright blonde hair and big blue eyes. It's not like there's anything wrong with this kid, Melissa. He's a great kid who just happens to look different. But, oh, I know, Mom answered, and she put her hand over her heart. Oh, Bridget, no one's saying he's not a great kid. Believe me, I'm sure he is. I hear the parents are lovely people. And that's not the issue, though. To me, ultimately, the simple fact of the matter is that Tushman didn't follow protocol. He flagrantly disregarded the application process by not having the boy come to Breacher Prep for the interview or take the test like every one of our kids did. He broke the rules. And rules are rules, that's it. Mom made a sad face at Bridget. Oh, dear Bridget, I can see you totally disapprove. Oh, no, Melissa, not at all, Charlotte's mom said, shaking her head. It's a tough situation all around. Look, the fact is your kid got punched in the face. You have every right to feel angry and demand some answers. Thank you, said Mom, and crossed her arms. I just think the whole thing's been handled terribly, that's all. And I blame Tushman completely. Absolutely, said Henry's mom. He's got to go, agreed Miles' mom. I looked at Mom, surrounded by nodding other mothers, and I thought, okay, so maybe this is going to turn out to be one of those really super mom moments. Maybe everything she was doing would make it so Augie ended up going to a different school. And then things would go back to being the way it used to be at Breacher Prep. That would be so awesome. But a part of me was thinking maybe this is going to turn into a not so super mom moment. I mean, some of the stuff she was saying sounded kind of like, I don't know, kind of harsh. I guess it's like when she gets mad at a waiter. You end up feeling sorry for the waiter. The thing is, I know she's on this Annie Tushman mission because of me. If I hadn't started getting nightmares again, and if Jack hadn't punched me, none of this would be happening. She wouldn't be making a big deal about Augie or Tushman, and she'd be concentrating all of her time and energy on good stuff, like raising money for the school and volunteering at the homeless shelter. Mom does good stuff like that all the time. So I don't know. On one hand, I'm happy she's trying to help me. On the other hand, I would love for her to stop. Okay, we're going to stop right there, you guys. There's a lot to review, to talk about. Okay.